Word. All right, thank you guys for joining us today. My name is Kristen Parent. I'm the Program and Events Manager for the Middleton Chamber. We really appreciate you guys taking time out of your schedules to attend this. As the Chamber, we felt like it was a good idea for us to kind of help our businesses unfold some of this financial programs that are out there to help you guys during this difficult time. So we're really excited to be able to pull together this panel today. So with that, I just want to showcase our three speakers for today. So we do have Patricia Petty from the Wisconsin District of the SBA, who will join in us kind of to talk through the different programs. Steve Erickson is here. He is with the Waunakee Community Bank, and obviously they are filing a lot of those loans through the SBA right now. So here to talk about some of those programs and how it's going. And then we'll finish with Peter Nagel, who is a CPA, and he's got some tips and tax credits or considerations for you guys to think about as well. And then we'll end with some Q&A. We did have some people that pre-submitted some questions, so we'll get to those first. And then we can open up the chat and everything else if people have questions outside of that. So with that, I would like to invite Patricia, if you want to take yourself off of mute. She is with the Wisconsin Division of the Small Business Administration. She's been with SBA for over 40 years in varying capacities and has worked as an economic development specialist for the last 15. She's also the Wisconsin SBA District Disaster Liaison with the different disaster offices. And prior to the SBA, Patricia was employed by the Wisconsin Emergency Management Division, where she was first introduced to the SBA programs. So with that, Patricia, I would like to turn it over to you.
Okay, first I need to know if you can hear me okay, because I'm wondering if my connection is getting kind of crazy right now.
I can hear you right now, just perfect.
Great, all right, let's go. All right, right now, these are the various things that we have available: the Paycheck Protection Program, we have Sba Debt Relief, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and the Advanced Program right now are not, the portal is not open yet. We're still waiting for guidance on that. Right now we're told that applications from the first round are still being processed with funds from the second round. We're hoping that the portal will open up again. But we're kind of in a waiting period. The Paycheck Protection Program obviously is one that everybody seems to want. I did send over to the Chamber a handout that actually has the various ways of figuring out what your base payroll is for the loan program now. Something that they finally gave to us yesterday morning. Wish we would have had it for the first round. It would have helped answer a lot of questions. The handout basically goes by, I'm self-employed, have no employees, I'm self-employed, do have employees, I'm in a partnership, I'm in an S Corp, I'm in a C Corp, and then gives all the various details of what you need to have to figure out what your base payroll is. Hopefully that will help you and help your lenders too, to help you get your application through much faster. The Paycheck Protection Program is a 1% loan for 2 years. If you use funds from the date of first disbursement for the next 8 weeks to pay 75% of your funds towards payroll and 25% or no more than 25% towards mortgage interest, rents, or utilities, you can apply for forgiveness for the entire loan. A lot of people have asked if they can hold off on that 8-week time period. We have not gotten an answer on that, and quite frankly, the loan forgiveness rules have not been totally completed. The only thing we've been told is if you do not follow that particular guideline, that maybe a portion of the loan might be forgiven, but not the whole loan. So kind of try and stay within that while you can, as much as you can. You cannot reduce your head count. You cannot reduce your overall salaries. You can move them around. You can add new people if some people don't want to come back to work because they're getting better funds through unemployment, which we've been hearing a lot as well. But you can bring other people on board. The whole point is to try and keep the head count there. Obviously, we're just trying to keep everybody so they are getting a paycheck and surviving this that we're all going through right now. Regarding SBA debt relief, anybody out there that has an existing SBA loan should have already been contacted by their lender that their loan is being paid for the next 6 months by SBA, both principal and interest. The bank was supposed to let you know that was happening and give you the option of either continuing to make payments or not. And also, if you made a payment after March 30 or March 27th, I believe was when this started. If you made a payment relatively close to that time, you were supposed to be given the option of either getting the funds back from the lender or having it applied to your loan. The other part of the SBA debt relief is any new loan through the 7A program, microloans, 504s. I'm not sure if Community Advantage is part of that. But any new loan made and fully dispersed by September 27th, we will be doing the same thing. We will be paying the first 6 months of principal and interest. Again, the economic injury disaster loan, I would love to say that it's open and available right now. And the only thing I can suggest right now, if that's what you're waiting for, is to sign up for our newsletter at www.sba.gov/updates. Make sure you put in your email address and your zip code. Through that newsletter, you will probably find out faster than the local office finds out when various things are opening up. It's amazing how everybody seems to find out before the local office does, especially lenders. They have a really good way of getting information before we do. As far as additional resources available, we also have our SBA Express Lender Program, the Bridge Loan. It's a $25,000 loan that is supposed to help make a small bridge for you until you can get back up and running. That has to be through a lender that has been approved to do express loans. To find the express lenders in Wisconsin, you would need to go to our Wisconsin district office website, which again, sba.gov/WI. That'll bring you into the Wisconsin district. In the middle of the page, there is a section of calendar of events. Underneath that is business resources. On the right-hand side, towards the top of that section, is a listing of various lenders that have various designations, and there is a link for Express. Once you click on that, you will get a listing of the Express lenders in the state, and you can reach out to them for that particular program. What the interest rate, et cetera, is on that, that was not in the guidance that we were given. It initially was a pilot program that's been extended for this particular COVID-19 issue. So check with the lenders if you're interested in that. Again, we also have, if you're just needing some help in trying to guide yourself through this, figure out which program is best for you. We do have a lot of resources like our SCORE chapters, our small business development centers, our women's business centers that have the time and the expertise to go and counsel you through this step by step. They will actually help you with some of the questions about the types of information needed for the applications. That again would be at sba.gov/WI. Actually, I'll give you an easier way of getting there. If you just go to sba.gov, and then at the top of the screen towards the right of the main SBA page, there's a link for local assistance. You just click on that, put in your zip code, and it will bring you a listing of those resources that are closest to you. Just to give you a little bit of information, if anybody is wondering where the money's been going to, in the first round of monies, approvals here in Wisconsin for the PPP loans, and this is as of April 16th that we have for that. We had 43,395 loans here in Wisconsin for $8.3 billion. For the EIDL loans approved in Wisconsin as of April 24th, we had only 339 loans for $71.6 million. The advance, which is the forgiven portion of the EIDL, as of 4/24, we had 14,277 loans made for over $63.4 million. So there is a lot of money that has come into the state. I would love to say that everybody who applies gets something, but there's been all sorts of craziness going on with our websites and crashing, trying to get through various loan programs. So I certainly ask that everybody be patient. We were asked to put a new program with the PPP within 1 week, of which normally new programs we get 6 months to a year to put everything together, so there would not be any hiccups. It's a little bit harder to try and just rush and put something on the straight within a week and not have issues. So apologize for things that people are encountering, but this has just been so overwhelming to all of us. If you have any questions that aren't answered during this particular presentation, I would strongly suggest sending an email to wisconsin@sba.gov. There's a couple of us that are monitoring that email address, and we will try and get answers for you. Even if it's a lender who wants to do that, I will make sure I get you forwarded to the correct lender relations specialist for your area. So any questions?
I think we'll have some questions. I'll probably just save them for the end, Patricia, if that's okay, and just kind of see who's best to answer those. But thank you. Appreciate that.
That's fine. Okay.
All right. Anything else you wanted to share before we move on to Steve?
No.
Okay. There we go. So next up, I'd like to introduce Steve Erickson. He is the market president at Waunakee Community Bank. He enjoys taking time to learn about his customers, their businesses, and what opportunities or challenges are on the horizon, and then find the right banking option that fits the business. Steve strives to structure each loan opportunity with your goals as opposed to a one-size-fits-all. His military background with the Wisconsin Army National Guard and a tour in Afghanistan gives Stephen a unique perspective on teamwork and finding solutions to complex situations. So with that, I would love to turn it over to Steve.
Hi, everybody. My name is Erickson. Thank you, Kristen, for putting this together and the entire Middleton Chamber. Also, Patricia, I think did a great job outlining, your expertise regarding these government relief options. So I am the Chief Sales Officer of Oregon Community Bank, Waunakee Community Bank, McFarland State Bank, and Adams Community Bank. As many of you know, we are in the process of merging McFarland State Bank into Oregon Community Bank, and that is very close to being completed, that merger. And it's an interesting time right now to be going through the merger along with the COVID crisis, right? And then what that really done is kind of put all of our teams together to find ways that we can utilize these government relief options to best serve our clients and our overall markets. When the merge is complete, we're going to be one organization uniquely serving 9 different communities, and Middleton is a top community of that 9. So thank you again for the offer to come and talk on this panel. I will go through kind of like this quick bullet points of the PPP program for y'all. And, if anybody wants to interrupt on the panel and ask questions, feel free to do so, or we can just wait until the end, as Kristen had already outlined. So can everybody hear me okay? If anybody can't hear me, could someone just raise their hand? Because I just did a whole lot of talking. Okay,
Nope, we
great.
can hear you. Maybe just a little bit. You're coming through a little soft,
right.
so maybe just a little louder.
Okay, good, good. But I don't need to say the whole monologue all over again, right? Everybody's good? Okay.
No, you're good. Thank you.
So the payment protection program, it's been a lot of fun figuring this out with the government and the SBA team as it's evolved, right? So as Patricia already alluded to, usually these programs take 6 months to kind of define, put together, make sure that they're streamlined and everything is set, all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. And given the immediate need of these funds and the avenue to deploy them through local financial institutions, we've been figuring this all out as we go along. And I think that from a community banking standpoint, not just local to this market, but in the country in general, we've done a really fantastic job making sure that we deploy capital to the communities that we serve and to the business owners of our clients. So what the PPP is the ability for a business to get a loan to fund 2.5 months worth of payroll and other expenses. And so long as the proceeds of that loan are used to fund payroll up to 75% and other allowable expenses, is what Patricia outlined, then that loan can be forgiven. Any portion of the loan that's not forgiven will carry on the bank that originated its balance sheet at an interest rate of 1% for 2 years. So this is a really, really good deal for business owners all across the country, in particular in Dane County. The process to getting the PPP loan is to talk to somebody like myself or one of our commercial banking colleagues of one of the banks that I already referenced, or your lender that you might already have a relationship with. The application form is available online. Your banker can also send you the PDF version of it. It's just a few pages. Takes into account you're going to answer a few questions. You're going to sign some attestations saying that you need the funds and what they're going to be used for. And then from that, the lender takes the application and puts it into the SBA portal, or what's referred to as E-Tran system. It gets approved, and then within 10 days after it gets approved, it has to be funded. And that's part of the text as outlined by the SBA. So this is not a long approval process. As many of you might have already heard, the first round of PPP funding, I think it was about $250 billion, that went away in about 2 weeks. It was all drawn up. And that was when banks were in the process of figuring out how to use E-Tran, how to get the funds available to the clients, how to get loan documents. As of Monday of this week, at I believe it was 9:30, the other $349 billion that was, designated to replenish that bucket of PPP funds, that went live Monday morning of this week. And we are anticipating that by the end of the week, that bucket is going to be dry. So all the funds are going to be designated and reserved. So anybody who's, in the vicinity of this phone call, if you think that PPP might be appropriate for your business, or if you're an independent contractor and you realize that you were eligible, but you are in fact eligible for a PPP loan, if you have not already done the research, filled out the application, talk to a lender, you should probably do that this week, because there's a good chance that next week or the week after, you're not going to be able to get the loan. Regarding the financials that you're going to need to gather, it's basically the supporting documentations to justify the payroll expense. And that payroll expense is what's going to be used to determine your overall loan amount. Okay. So I don't want to get into the entire weeds of what you need to gather, but you should be working with your CPAs, just like Peter Nagel, because he's already been inundated with requests as well. The CPAs that you have that provide your tax return and do your accounting, they know the documents that you need. 941s from payroll, or Schedule C from your personal tax returns if you're an independent contractor. You're going to take those documents, you're going to put those right behind the application of the PDF, and then you're going to want to send that to your lender, and that lender is then going to take that information, input into the system, and get you approved for the loan. Apologize for speaking fast here. So like I said, if anybody, Kristen, wants to interrupt me, feel free to do that. the timeline, again, is that when we get an application for, on our end, Organized Community Bank, when we receive the application, we send it into our administration team. We're pulling colleagues all throughout the organization from various departments to input these applications so that we can make sure that they happen immediately, and that we can, we don't want our borrowers or our clients to lose out on the funds, right? So what happens is that when we get that application, we have the PDF, we send it into our administration team. From there, it goes to the underwriting. And the underwriting is simply the matter of making sure that the loan amount that's requested in the application reconciles with the payroll documentation that the borrower has provided. And then the other end of that on the administration piece is putting the application into the E-Tran portal, the system, to designate those funds and reserve them. Regarding forgiveness of the loan itself, Patricia already talked into that, and she had referenced that there's more guidance that's going to be coming out in the following weeks on the parameters of the forgiveness. What we do know, or what we are aware of, or what we've been told, is that at minimum 75% of the loan proceeds need to be spent on payroll, and that at the end of the 8-week period, the number of employees that a business owner has needs to be equal to the number of employees that that business had during the comparison period. So if you're a business owner and you are using 2019 as your comparable period to determine your loan amount, and you had 100 employees at the end of 2019, if at the end of the 8-week period from when you get the loan, if you only have 90 employees and you've reduced your headcount by 10%, what we're being told is that your forgivable amount of the loan will thereby also be reduced by 10%. So without trying to get too granular on all this stuff, and if people have specific questions to ask myself or Patricia at the end, feel free to kind of, compile those right now. The two things that a business owner ought to be aware of, or ought to be plan on doing, is when they get the funds of PPP, plan on spending those funds on payroll, and do not plan on having any reduction in the number of employees at the end of the 8-week period. Patricia, is there anything that you would like to add or caveat to what I just said? I know I speak kind of fast, but.
Well, the only thing that I can think of that I forgot to mention is if people are having a hard time finding a lender that will work with them, we do have some fintechs that are now approved to also do the PPP loans, such as PayPal, Square, Intuit, and also Cabot, the 4. And the other than that, the only thing I can suggest is if you've got questions that we can't answer, or if you want to try and delve into all of it yourself, basically everything that we answer is basically going to the Treasury site or to our website, and whatever is public facing, that is all we're allowed to answer. So if there's something specific, feel free to go to the Treasury website as well as the SBA website under the COVID-19, and especially on the Treasury website, that's got more information than what we have. And everything about this program that also helped delay things in trying to get answers is everything that we do has to also be approved by Treasury. So it's twofold. It's not just SBA making decisions, it's also Treasury making decisions. Some people have gotten very upset because there are certain things in the act that they feel we're not necessarily doing based on the act. However, any changes that were made in implementing were done in conjunction with Treasury. So I just want to make sure everybody is aware of that. SBA is just not going and making changes. It is between SBA and Treasury that any of the changes have been made. And most of the changes that have been made whether it's this or whether it's the economic injury disaster loan, is to try and get as much money to everybody as possible.
So thank you, Patricia. And I'll just to kind of echo, from our standpoint of, serving 9 different communities and local business owners, I think that the Wisconsin SBA representatives such as Patricia and her other colleagues have done a fantastic job working with us and our, like-minded lenders on answering the questions and finding ways that we can help the businesses in our community keep our neighbors employed. Couple other things. I had emailed Kristen this morning. I think these documents can be made available at the end of this presentation. But there's a frequently asked question document produced by the Treasury that anybody you can either go online to look at, or if it's going to be made as a downloadable PDF. That's from the Treasury, and you can also look at another one. I forget what it's called, but it's referencing for independent contractors. And again, it goes into the weeds and it's kind of granular, but you can go through all of that yourself. Take a look at what is available out there. We as an organization have funded and processed. Now it's at 600 applications for local business owners. And that is a source of pride because, like I said, this has been a few weeks of us doing this, and we have done 100 separate loans of processing and funding them. We've injected over $75 million of capital into the communities that we serve, and we've kept 11,000 of our neighbors employed through this program. So for all of the ambiguity that might exist in the program and some inconsistencies that the Treasury and the SBA are trying to figure out, this has definitely had a positive impact on our local market. So we are very, very happy to be a partner with all of you in providing that impact to our clients.
Awesome. Yeah, the handouts that Patricia and Stephen have mentioned, I plan to email out to you guys in one packet, or so you have them all in one email after this. So you'll get an email from me as a wrap up from today. Okay, let's take it over to Peter. Yep, go ahead, Stephen.
So Patricia outlined some other avenues. If your current lender is not able to process your PPP application because you might not be a large enough client or something like that, we are not opening it up to the entire market. We are selectively opening it up. So if anybody's on this call and wants to talk about a PPP application to our financial institution, feel free to either reach out to me or my colleague who represents the Middleton market, Casey Koenig, and he's out of the Oregon office, and his number is 608-835-3168. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, and then I would like to turn it to Peter. Peter Nagel is a partner at Nagel and Van Hoovel CPAs and is a certified public accountant for over 20 years. He has experience in small and regional public accounting firms, which he has given tremendous exposure to problems facing small businesses. So Peter enjoys spending time outside and watching football and baseball. So with that, Peter, we'd love to have you walk us through some of these tax credits.
All right, thanks, Kristen. And thanks to everybody at the Chamber for getting this put together so quickly. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, you are good.
Okay. In addition to these other programs through SBA, there are a couple tax credits and also a payroll tax delay that is available to employers. One is called the Sick and Family Leave Credit, and that's, there's a couple components to that. So if you have an employee who is actually quarantined because of the coronavirus, and it could be, self-quarantine, it could be a diagnosis, it's fairly broad in, what you have to, requirements to be quarantined. So they're entitled to sick leave for up to 10 days, and they get paid the regular rate of pay up to $511 a day. And then another part of that credit is if you have an employee that's caring for someone, like their child, because their child's place of schooling is closed, they can get up to 2 weeks at 2/3 their regular pay, or $200 per day. And along with that, if you're caring for a child that their school is closed, or their daycare would also count, they can get up to 10 weeks of family leave credit at the same $200 per day, or 2/3 the regular rate of the $200 per day. And employers claim this credit against the employment taxes that they're paid to their other employees. So you have to work with your payroll company to claim this credit when you're filing your payroll taxes. And then there's also one called the Employee Retention Credit. That one you can get 50% up to $10,000 in qualified wages paid between March 21st of 2020 and January 1st of 2021. And these are eligible employers or businesses that have been partially or fully suspended due to the government orders, or have experienced a significant decline in gross receipts compared with 2019. That credit is capped at $5,000 per employee, and it can be claimed against federal tax deposits that you're making, or you can claim an advance refund using this form 7200. But if you get a PPPL loan, you cannot use the employee retention credit. So that's one that you'd have to factor in whether the PPL loan is better or the retention credit is better. And the third part is there's a delay in payroll tax deposits. So you can delay the employer's portion of Social Security taxes that would be required to be made between March 27th of 2020 and December 31st of 2020. 50% of that amount is due December 31st of 2021, and the remaining 50% in 22. So this credit, you're just delaying the timing of the payment. So this also applies to self-employed individuals that have to pay self-employment taxes on their personal returns. The one thing I think you really need to watch out with this is budgeting your cash flow, because you are just deferring the payments to a future period. You're not getting anything forgiven. So that's really those other items. Again, I think you need to work with your payroll company if you're going to be claiming these credits, because that is how they are claimed, and you need to make sure that you're reporting them correctly. And also, I would, work with your CPA on deciding, what route is the best way to go. Is it the credit? Is it the PPL loan? So that you're, getting in the best situation.
Perfect. Thank you, Peter. That's awesome
Yeah.
information. If there's anything else that you three would like to add, otherwise I think this is a good time for us to move into some questions that have been submitted and other ones that we're receiving through chat right now. So the first question, and I'll let you three decide who wants to take it, but the first question we have today is, I own a rental property at a water park resort in Wisconsin Dells. The resort is closed due to Safer at Home. Am I eligible for the EIDL with the $10,000 grant?
Regarding the EIDL, rental property owners, yes, can qualify for it. Unfortunately, the portal is down right now. So I would really suggest looking more to the PPP than I would waiting for the EIDL right now.
I would agree with Patricia on that. I would note the history of this EIDL that it did look like anybody who applied for it could get the $10,000 grant. That has since been trimmed down by the SBA to say that you can get up to $1,000 grant per employee up to $10,000. I've been advising clients to apply for the EIDL to get that grant, while at the same time getting ready to apply for the PPP or going through the PPP process. Patricia, would you agree with that advice to business owners on this phone call?
I would, except for, like I said, the EIDL portal is still down. So at this point, definitely going for the PPP and keep watching to see if the portal opens back up.
The next question is, if the PPP loan is to be forgiven, do I have to bring my employees back by a certain date? And will the forgiveness be based on the dollar amount of payroll or the number of employees on payroll?
All guidance says that it's both headcount and total salary. And as far as a date goes, also in the guidance, I believe it says that you must bring and rehire by June 30th.
Okay. I think that kind of goes along with this other question we got, is to confirm the number of employees needed to be restored by the end of 8 weeks. Same. Okay, next question. If self-employed and have applied for unemployment, I have received denial letters that state no employer reported. Do I need to reapply? And if so, how do I indicate that I am self-employed and eligible under the expanded unemployment benefits?
Yeah, that's not something that I can answer.
Okay, that's okay. Might not be for this group. Should my employees apply for unemployment while I am waiting for the PPP to process?
You kind of broke up on that,
Oh,
Kristen.
sorry. Yep, sorry. Should my employees apply for unemployment while I'm waiting for the PPP to process?
Since the PPP is a lot quicker than EIDL, I kind of hesitate to do that. Because if they start receiving funds through unemployment and all of a sudden they're starting to get payment from their employer again, they will be subject to remitting back what they received from unemployment to unemployment. So if they don't want that hassle, like, I guess it's going to have to be an individual decision on that as to, you know, where they are. Can they wait or can they not?
I think I have to qualify everything I said because this is all my understanding of what I've read and who I've talked to. So I'm not a subject matter expert on the actual underwriting criteria guidelines or an expert in unemployment insurance. That being the case, from what I understand, is that a lot of business owners would be better served if they furlough their employees, allow them to collect unemployment, and then rehire them once they get the PPP loan versus terminating those employees. If they terminate the employees, it will be difficult for them, from my understanding, to recall them back to work. And as many of you know, a lot of the employees in our market or in the country, because of the unemployment package that was part of the CARE Act, is that employees that are making essentially $45,000 or less could actually be more incentivized to collect unemployment insurance than they would to come back to work for their employer. So the employer ought to furlough employees so that he or she can call them back instead of terminating them. Peter or Patricia, would you guys like to refute that statement or clarify it, validate it?
I would definitely agree with that statement, because if you're furloughed, you should not have to then comply with the having to go out and interview for a job every week. So there is some challenges there. I mean, as the federal employee that was furloughed at the beginning of last year, we went through that. First, we were told, no, you don't have to because of the situation. And the next week they came back and said, oh, no, you have to start going out and interviewing. And I was like, you got to be freaking kidding me. So I luckily had another source that I was able to find funding to get us through that. So I just said, okay, I'm going to stop my unemployment. Not everybody has that choice. But it's my understanding, and I'm not an expert on unemployment, so I highly suggest that people go to the Department of Workforce Development website and check out the rules for this right now. But it's my understanding that if you're furloughed, then you don't have to go through that process, because you are expected to come back to work at some point. And that is one of the questions when you are applying for unemployment, is are you expected to come back and when? So I think that would make it easier.
Yeah, I would also agree that that's probably, a way to go is furlough them until you have the loan and then bring them back and start paying them.
Okay, perfect. The next question. If you take advantage of the SBA loan relief for 6 months, what does repayment look like?
That's a good question. I can't answer at the moment. It all depends on what particular loan program that they are applying for. If they're a current SBA employee, then they would just, start up their payment again. I'm sorry, not SBA employee, but SBA loan recipient. They would just continue then to start up their payments again. If it's a new loan, obviously they would know upfront what those payments would be before we even started. So again, it all depends on what program it is. Is it a 504? Is it a microloan? Is it a regular 7A product? It's going to be in the note that they sign. They will know what the payments structure is going to be after that 6 months.
Any thoughts on how long the current PPP will last? And if you think there might be a third round of funding coming?
So, I mean, yeah, and both those questions require speculative answers. I will tell you that as a lender, we are anticipating that by the end of this week, 349 billion worth of PPP loans would have exhausted. So next week, somebody who wants a PPP loan will be waiting for a third round of funding. Whether or not there's going to be a third round of funding is entirely speculation that I'm not going to wage an answer on.
Same here. We can hope as much as we'd like. We have nothing telling us right now that there will be.
I would also agree. I think if you haven't applied for the loan, you better get in, and because I think it's going to be gone pretty quickly. And, future funding, it's really all up to the government and what they can decide.
Okay, our next question reads, is there any chance that they may extend the deadline to use the PPP funds? Many small businesses are still not allowed to work, so to have their staff back in full time with no or low work, it may be challenging to use up the loan.
So you broke up quite a bit there, but I'm
Sorry.
guessing, that's okay, but I'm guessing what you're asking is, especially those businesses that are closed down right now, and they get the loan, what do they do for that 8-week period? Obviously, the whole purpose of the loan is for that 8-week period, you bring your people back on board, so they're actually getting a paycheck. So they're not sitting at home going, I can't apply for unemployment, I need monies. They're getting paid whether they're working at the job or sitting at home. You want to keep your employees employed for various reasons, because obviously you don't want to have to rehire people after all of this is over because your employees have gone elsewhere. There's no training, et cetera, that you have to worry about doing when you're bringing people back up when you're reopening. I don't see it changing. So you also can have the possibility of not doing that and having the 1% interest rate loan for 2 years. And really, I would suggest that they work with their CPA, if they have one, to really make those decisions for them or help them make those decisions, because it's not something that I can give you advice on. It's very specific in the act and in all of the interim rules that it's 8 weeks from first disbursement, and there's no wiggle room there that we've been able to see so far. We've asked the question, but we have not gotten any further guidance on that one.
Okay.
I would echo what Patricia said, and there's an example to highlight this. If you're a business owner and you have 100 employees and they all make less than $50,000 a year, and you terminated them, and then you get a $500,000 PPP loan, you have a problem is that trying to get them to come back, you'd have to pay them more money than they're making not working, right? And you want to get it forgiven. That's why the need for somebody like Peter Nagel to be on your team to help you find a way to either bring them back or to use those funds for payroll for allowable expenses so it can be forgiven is really crucial. And the lender, as myself or Patricia, is just not going to be the subject matter expert on that piece to answer that question, to provide that kind of guidance. It would be a person like Peter Nagel.
I know pushing the AICPA and the National Restaurant Association have been pushing for a change in that 8-week time period, but then there's been no indication that it's going to. So I would kind of doubt it at this point. But we have been working with our clients to put together a projection of the next of the 8 weeks since when they get their loan, to see, what are they going to have for payroll, what are they going to have other costs, and then what can be done to either get the payroll costs up, or what kind of loan are they going to be looking at the end of the period.
Great. That kind of exhausts the questions that I think I caught up on. So if anyone else on the phone would like to take themselves off of mute or to type in questions. Go ahead, Kate.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I think there was one other question from Mayor Barr asking how many Middleton businesses have participated. So I guess, is there a way that people are looking at breaking this down a little bit more granularly? I know we get a lot of numbers Wisconsin-wide, Dane County-wide, but can those numbers be broken down even further?
I have not seen a report yet that breaks it down further for us. And right now, even our employees are not able to get into the database area to be able to pull those reports right now. It's the same link that all the lenders are going into to do the loans, so they've kind of have blocked us from being able to get into the area. So even if I wanted to try and get that information, right now I can't. Hopefully in a week or two, we would be able to do that. But right now, unfortunately, I cannot get further down than either industry-wide or actually, I can't even tell you even the industry-wide for the state. I can only give you the state total numbers at this point.
Sure. I'm sure that you guys are fairly busy just trying to keep up with guidelines and loans, but it sounds like possibly down the road when things have calmed down, we'll be able to get some data.
Yes, that should be available at some point, as soon as I can get back in there and get into the database.
Okay, we can open it up to any questions.
Someone's gonna have a question.
Well, if there aren't any questions, I would just like to thank our panelists for taking time out of their busy schedules. I know that Peter, Steve, and Patricia are probably pretty overwhelmed right now, and we just, from the Middleton Chamber, I just want to thank you all for taking time out of your schedule today.
This was a lot of fun. Thank you all for, and thank you, Patricia and Peter, for letting me join your esteemed panel here.
I did just see one other question pop up. The person was asking if there was any way to check the status of an EIDL loan. Unfortunately, the local offices do not have access to the disaster database, but I can give you an 800 number, 1-800-659-2955. That will get you to the Disaster Customer Service Center, or you can also email them at all one word, disastercustomerservice@sba.gov. I will tell you that they are also overwhelmed with those questions. And based on where the loan is in the queue, depends on whether they can even see it. So just be prepared, and please be patient. That's all I can ask for at this point.
Perfect. Well, thank
So thanks
you.
for everybody for getting this. Thanks for putting it all together at the Middleton Chamber, and thanks to everybody for participating today, and stay safe.
Yeah, thank you guys again for participating, as Peter said, and I appreciate all of you guys being here. I will follow up with the group. I'll gather all the handouts and websites and links that everyone has mentioned today, and then shoot that out in an email to everyone so that you guys have all of that in one central location. So thanks for tuning in, and stay safe, and we'll hope to see you guys face to face really soon.